How was your birthday?
It was good. It was nice. We went out for dinner with family
Yeah.
on the Friday night because my birthday was the Friday, and then on the Saturday we went out for dinner again.
Divine.
So it was birthday weekend. It was
I love
lovely.
that.
Yeah,
Good. And I'm sure you
very.
were lots of spoils of kisses by the doggos and just
Oh, absolutely, of course. I'm spoiling them.
oh, it's the best, isn't it? Just being able to spoil
Yeah,
the animals in our lives.
it is. How was your weekend?
It was really good. We went for a girls' brunch on Sunday
Lovely.
and it was beautiful. And actually, where this hotel and restaurant is, there's a tree, and I'm trying to remember. I want to say an elm tree, not
Oh, I
100%,
love elm
but it's
trees.
100 years old.
Wow, and they're magnificent, aren't they?
Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So that was like quite a nice little highlight, and
Stunning.
then just relaxing, really.
Yeah.
What is in your cup today?
I have got a chamomile and orange blossom tea.
Ooh.
It's really delicious. It's probably more of an evening thing, but
Chamomile
changing the
tends to be, but I suppose calming vibes can be any time of the day.
yeah, sure they can.
Do you add honey or anything in as well?
No, just water.
Nice. Okay.
Water and tea bag, that's all I need. Love it.
Fun. Good. Oh,
What
okay.
have you got in your tea?
So I went back to my big pot of just
Oh,
black tea.
what?
I love this pot as well. Just a normal black tea with sugar and milk.
I might have to get my teapot out for next week.
You are. No,
Yeah.
100%.
Gosh, we're gonna have like it's gonna turn into a tea party, this,
Oh,
isn't it?
100%. I mean, is it not already?
Well, I suppose it is. It's a tree party.
A tree party. Oh my God, I love that. Put that on a t-shirt.
Put it on a t-shirt. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I've actually got a thought of the day for you, Catty.
Go on. What's your thought of the day? I'm ready.
Okay, so this is a quote by John Muir, I think is how you pronounce his name. He was a mountaineer. He lived from 1838 to 1914. And he said, the clearest way into the universe is through a forest wilderness.
Mm.
What do you think about that?
So interesting because you think of the universe and you think it's so vast and you think there's
Yeah.
so much to it. And then you think of where you are and you're just like a tiny little speck. But then you can also feel the same when you're in the forest, when you're in the wilderness, there is so much and you're just one tiny little piece of it.
I also think about like along those same lines as like how often people are going into the rainforests and finding new creatures. There are
That's
so
true.
many insects that we've not discovered yet. And obviously, as humans are using more and more of that space, we're endangering them or we're never going to get to find them.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really sad. But I think it is just that recognition that there's so much out there that we are unaware of.
Yeah. And there's so much more to the world than we know. And that then, like, we are not the center of the world, which we can so easily forget, can't
Oh,
we?
100%. Yeah.
Quickest way to find that out is to be plunged into the wilderness somewhere where you have to fend for yourself.
Where you're all alone and you don't know how to live and survive. There's no Wi-Fi to check how to do things.
Yeah, I really like that. I love that. Good thought of the day.
Yeah, thank you. I saw it and I was just like, no, that's beautiful, but it's also really deep and makes you think a little bit as well.
Yeah, really relevant to what we're doing too.
Definitely.
Nice. Well, welcome everybody to Understory Learning. We are a nature-based podcast and we will take you through our adventure as we explore the forests and the nature around us. I'm Hattie.
And I'm Caitlin.
And we're very excited to have you with us here today. We will be looking at the signs of the seasons today. So for Caitlin, that's the springtime is coming up and you're starting to see the signs of it there. And for me, that is the autumn because Caitlin's in the Southern Hemisphere, I'm in the Northern Hemisphere, and so our seasons are opposites.
And we also just want to put a little disclaimer out there that this is purely Hattie and I. We've done a lot of research, but these are our opinions and our thoughts. There is new research happening all the time. And so possibly our research is outdated or there is new stuff popping up. So if there is anything that you disagree with, we would love to hear from you in the comments or pop us an email. But just keep in mind that this is obviously all the research and our thoughts and everything that we've done.
Yes, we really want to hear from you. So please get in touch.
Yeah, please.
Let's begin with spring.
It's been really lovely arriving towards the end of winter and beginning of spring and doing my daily walks with Ollie because it just allows me to be seeing my local area and being more aware of all the things that are going on around us. I've noticed a lot of trees are getting their leaves now. There is one tree, an English oak, and oh my word, it has completely got all its leaves like this. It was amazing. I swear within a week, I saw nothing on the branches. And then I saw buds, and all of a sudden now it is a full tree of leaves. It is
Wow.
gorgeous.
It's like, hello, here I am.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's springtime. um, and then I'm also noticing a lot of pollinators, but a lot of birds as well. And I'm going to go into the different pollinators that we've got, but those are the signs of spring that I'm seeing. Obviously, another big sign that spring is on its way is the temperature has completely changed.
Yeah.
I am hoping for one more cold front, but the temperatures here have skyrocketed in the last week. It's now hitting like 27 degrees Celsius.
Is it usual for it to be that high?
I would say this is too soon. That for
Right.
me feels more like spring to summer vibes. And then our summer should be like 30-ish.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. So if
yeah,
we were to take it to the Northern Hemisphere version, it would be like May temperatures
okay.
then,
Yeah.
which you perhaps would expect around October.
Yes, exactly. We almost need like a little map for ourselves. It's really confusing. And actually, I am becoming more aware that a lot of people that I've spoken to worldwide are like, what do you mean we've got different seasons at
Yeah.
different. And so then I launch into my grade 3 level of an explanation of how the earth turns and how we get the Northern Hemisphere and the Southern Hemisphere get their different temperatures.
And to associate October with warm weather is
Yeah.
just very strange. It just feels very surreal. Or to associate August with cold weather is very, very weird.
Well, to have a cold Christmas for me is really strange. We've got hot Christmases and that blows people's minds. Like we go to the beach for Christmas and I just love it. So I watched spring and summer happen over in Bucharest, and now I'm getting to watch it all happen again over here, and kind of just seeing those differences as well. For me, in my area, the big signs have been the variety of birds that's coming in. You can see the birds that are now starting to migrate, the pollinators all popping up as well.
And
Um,
you can hear them as well. So
yeah,
much clearer this week than you could last week.
the birds.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You've
Yeah.
got more friends in your garden today.
100%. And also, you also get a lot of frog spawn around this time of year.
Hey. Oh my
Um,
gosh, I love frogs so much. They are one of my favorite signs of spring. I love it.
they are such a cool sign of spring, aren't they? But yeah, so in my area, I don't have a lot of frogs, but when I was younger, a couple of houses along the road, we had a friend and they had frogs in their garden. And this was a great time of the year to go and see that frog spawn and then see the tadpoles and watch that whole process happen. I love
Mhm.
frogs as well. I know a lot of people who don't like frogs. I can get it. They're slimy and kind of creepy, but I think they're so cute.
They're so cute. And they're so funny too.
They do sound really cool.
I love them. I love frogs.
And so, yeah, along with that, also there's different plants that start to pop up now. One of which, and we've spoken a lot about it, is that wild garlic starts to pop
Mhm.
up at this sort of time. Other than that, it really is just these pollinators. It was just blown away by the number of different pollinators there are. So we've obviously got our bees, and I'm representing. I've got my 2 bee rings on today. I do love bees, not only for their honey, but I just think they're such an important part of the environment. But they're also so cute, and there's so many different types of bees, Hattie, which just blows my mind. So once I realized that you don't just get like bumblebees and honeybees, you get a whole bunch of solitary bees. Now, you know about solitary bees.
Not much.
Okay. I was gifted a little bee house or bee hotel by one of my friends, and I loved it. I know you put it up, and it was through that that I learned a lot about solitary bees. So there's a bunch of different types of solitary bees, and solitary bees, like their name suggests, live by themselves. They live solo,
Yeah.
solitary. That's where their name comes from. There are so many varieties, and a lot of the time they'll live in those little holes that our insects have bored into the trees.
Oh,
What you
okay.
can
So
will
from
use
last
these
week
pieces.
about those pests, and actually they've got another job. I suppose
Yeah.
they're creating this for our bees.
Exactly. So I'm assuming it's once the other insects have left that space.
Mm.
They will use that space for their homes. If you make little bee hotels, basically you just take a piece of wood and you drill a bunch of different sized holes into it. They will use those. Previously, when we were talking about conifers and critters, you were talking about the pine cones, right?
Oh
And
yeah,
any
comb.
sort of hotel that you make with the pine cones and all the bits and bobs and everything that are a little bit more natural than just a piece of wood, they'll use those spaces as well. But you'll often also find them if you've got little like drill holes in your house, they'll use those spaces as well. And so my favorite type of solitary bee is the leaf cutter solitary bee.
Okay, tell me about that.
Okay, so I've known about leaf cutter ants for a while.
I've heard of
Um,
leaf ants.
yes. And so what a leaf cutter bee does is basically it decides, okay, this little hole is going to be my home, where I'm going to lay my eggs. So usually what it does is it cuts out pieces of these leaves and then it uses that inside its home and it layers eggs with food and then a leaf, if I remember correctly. And then again, it's got a couple of chambers where it lays one egg in each chamber. Um, and afterwards, it will take another leaf and it will cover over the hole using the leaf and using almost some like glue that it creates.
Like an
Um,
inner bee.
yeah, exactly. And then it will leave that. And when the babies hatch, they'll eat the food, they'll eat through the leaves as well. And then they'll make their way out.
That's really nice.
I know. It's really cool.
Organized, isn't it?
Yeah. Very organized.
Nature is so cool. I think because we just see these insects as something that are flying around, you forget that they have a whole way of living. They've got a whole culture, haven't
Completely.
they?
Yeah, definitely. They do. And it's so different to the other types of bees. Yeah, it's really cool. And there are other types of solitary bees. I can't think of any of the other names right now, but there are a huge variety and they all cover their little holes to keep their eggs safe in different ways. And their chambers inside look slightly different as well.
Like a front door and then bedrooms. That's so cool.
Exactly. It is 100%. And they are such good pollinators for us. And they often get overlooked because they're not creating honey for humans. So we don't always think about what they're able to do for us, right?
Mhm.
And I find that as humans, we often are looking for what animals can give us rather than just like what are their benefits, what are they good for.
Mm.
I really do highly suggest everyone gets a little bee hotel. But what's also really nice about solitary bees is that they are safe around babies and pets.
Oh,
So they're non-stinging bees.
we like them. I mean, we like the stingy ones too, but we like them. If anyone listening wants to get outside and do something fun, you could go and collect a whole bunch of stuff. And with a responsible adult, of
Yes.
course. If you're not a responsible adult yourself, or then you can go and make some things for these bugs to live in. You just need a frame and then you can fill
Mm,
it with various objects like your pine cones. And I think autumn is probably a really good time to do that sort of thing because there's a lot of things on the ground like leaf litter and then those insects can hibernate over the winter and then they'll emerge in the spring, which is where you're seeing them now.
exactly. What I found really surprising was researching unusual pollinators that we don't always think about. So we often think about the butterflies and the bees, right?
Mm.
You spoke last week about how wasps can be pollinators as well. But I found some really interesting other animals. You get flies that are also really good pollinators. So often we just think about like normal black house flies or horse
Yeah.
flies, really irritating and annoying to us. There is so many different types of flies, and a lot of them are really good for pollinating purposes.
Yeah, like hoverflies and stuff.
Yes, exactly.
It's so
Right?
much.
Fascinating, aren't they?
They are, and they're so friendly too. We would not have the beauty around us if it wasn't for those pollinators. They're what keep this world green.
There are types of lizards or skinks that are pollinators as well.
Oh, and I don't even think about anything that's not an insect when I think about
Yeah.
pollinators. It's like a fluffy creature that's getting stuff stuck to it, but I don't think of anything that's not a bug. So yeah, so reptiles too.
Yes. So in Brazil, there's and I hope I'm going to say this right, Noronca skink, which drinks the nectar of the different flowers of the mulungu tree, and gets pollen stuck on its scales. So again, just like you, I always thought it had to get stuck on like the little hairy, fluffy creatures, but it
Uh,
gets stuck on their scales. And then as they move to other flowers, that pollen drops off,
wow.
and pollinates the different flowers.
Wow, wow! I wouldn't have even thought about reptiles as being pollinators at all. That's so
I
cool.
know. And then Tasmania has the snow skink, which also does the same thing. It eats off of a certain flower there. And again, the pollen gets stuck on its scales. And then as they move to the different plants, that's where the pollination happens.
Love that. The
Yeah.
diversity of like different categories of animals as well, different jobs, different purposes.
Exactly. And these obviously have almost grown to eat these certain flowers. And so I'm sure there are other pollinators that are helping these flowers, but from my understanding, these are their main pollinators. And so it it's really interesting relationship where it's like you get food from me, and then through you eating, I then get pollinated. And it's just this
Yeah,
beautiful.
they've evolved to rely on each other. It's
Exactly.
beautiful, isn't it?
It really, really is. It's a very beautiful friendship.
If you're
Exactly.
not sure how to be a good friend, just watch nature.
And then Hattie, I also learned that there's lots of birds that are pollinators and bats as
Oh,
well.
I
So
love
I
bats are so cool.
think because they're out and about at night, there are certain plants that only open up at night or that the bats are attracted to, and those will then get pollinated through them at nighttime, which they wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to be pollinated otherwise.
Yeah, that's so cool. And nocturnal pollinators is a whole nother thing, isn't it? It's like moths. They're amazing pollinators. And
Hmm.
people are just they're flappy and scary and annoying. They're such good pollinators and they're so beautiful too. I love moths. I
Are there
really love
some
moths.
really, I think they have grown to love moths. Um, but on that note, do you know how do you tell the difference between a moth and a butterfly? Because I think there's a lot of butterflies that what we think is a butterfly that's actually a moth, and vice versa because of their color,
Okay,
right?
I actually read something that said that moths and butterflies are essentially the same categories and they're very, very closely related to the point that moths are butterflies. But then, and it said that the difference isn't necessarily about their genetic makeup, but the difference is more cultural. So butterflies and moths behave in different ways. So your butterflies tend to come out in the day, your moths tend to come out at night. Your butterflies, they close their wings when they land, and your moths, they keep them open.
Mm,
And I think there's a few other things as well. And obviously your moths tend to be hairy and your butterflies tend not to be. But
yeah.
those are the ones that I know of.
Okay. That's fascinating. Yeah, thank you for sharing those. But then, Hattie, the last very interesting pollinator that I wanted to talk to you about, and there are so many, but this was one other that I saw that I really just felt like I needed to talk to you about, is the African genet,
What's
which
that?
is a small cat.
I did not
Genet?
expect to talk about cats in this episode.
No, I know. How fascinating. So they are a carnivore. found throughout Africa. We've got them here in South Africa. They're very difficult to spot. Specific, so we get two types of genets here throughout South Africa. You get the small spotted and the large spotted. We're going to specifically talk about the large spotted genets, and they are about 90 centimeters in length. So that's
Okay.
rulers are a little bit bigger than your normal house cat. Yeah, so they're really cool. What I found fascinating is they are obviously carnivores, right? I'm like, sorry, how is a carnivore a pollinator? This just doesn't make
Yeah.
sense to me at all. Researchers from the University of Cape Town have caught genets snacking on sugarbush, and through them snacking on those sugarbush, which I'm like, why are you snacking on sugarbush? But I think it's just that like really sweet, possibly just that like sugar that they're craving.
Yeah.
Then through that, they're able to pollinate these sugarbush plants, which is
Wow.
incredible. And so this study was done in 2015, so it's relatively new research, and I've not really found a lot of new research on it. So it'd be very interesting to see if anything new does pop up, because I think it's just so fascinating that these typical carnivores are also contributing to being pollinators.
Yeah. It's wild.
It is completely wild and completely strange. It's fascinating.
It is. It
Yeah.
is fascinating. So we've gone from like I was thinking just insects to also insects and reptiles to also insects, reptiles and birds to also adding carnivorous mammals onto that as well.
Yeah. So that was what I found, and I couldn't believe it. So those were my unusual pollinators. And the big changes that I'm seeing around me, and I'm sure if you watch my background, you're gonna see a lot more birds and bugs and stuff flying around as well. But what changes, Hattie, are you seeing in your environment as you move from that summer warmth going into autumn?
So less in terms of animals, more in terms of plants.
Okay.
Where this year is an amazing year because all of the trees are covered in fruits. And typically, I read somewhere that all of the trees they communicate somehow to decide when they're going to have a big harvest year. So, for example, they will decide
Hattie?
one year that they're going to have a massive, massive harvest. Yeah. So they communicate somehow and they decide that this year, for example, is going to be a big harvest year. And so all of the trees, like the apple trees are full of apples, the oak trees are full of acorns, the rowan
Um,
trees are full of rowan berries, and there's everything has loads and loads of fruit. And it's not by coincidence that they all have loads of fruit. They've communicated that and decided
wow.
that. Then next year they'll have much less. So the harvest will
Okay.
be much smaller. And probably for the next, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, the harvest will be much smaller. And the reason they do this is because if an apple has more apples, then it's got more chance of growing another apple tree, for example. And so the more fruit that they have, the more chance they have of seed
Uh,
dispersal.
yes.
So I guess the more seeds they've got, the more chance they've got to increase their population. But also, the more fruit that they've got, the more interest they get from animals. So your squirrels and your dormice and your jays, and there's so many animals that eat different fruits of different trees. But the more fruit that you've got, the more food they've got. And so they're going to eat more of it. Now, if you have that every single year, loads and loads of fruit, then those animals they come to rely on it. And then maybe there's a year where they can't have enough fruit because of the weather conditions or something like that. And then none of that fruit then goes into the ground to create another tree
Mhm.
because the animals have eaten it all because there's not enough for even the animals. Another thing is it helps to control the population of the animals because if there's more of them, if there's more fruit, they're eating more. If they're eating more, they've got more energy, they're going to reproduce, there's going to be more of the population. And then they will come to the point where they're overwhelming the trees.
Yeah.
So it helps to control the population to keep that low, but also it controls where those animals get their food from. Let's say next year there's not so much and there's not going to be so much for several years. Well, they can't then rely on it being a good year. They have to learn how to get their food from
Food
somewhere else. So then when they do have these massive crops, well, they're not going to eat as much of them. And so that means that more of those seeds can go out and create new trees. So
Mhm.
it's all a communication thing. And this year is so exciting because it's one of those big harvest years. You
Amazing.
walk outside and every single tree is covered in whatever fruit it has. The hawthorn trees are just completely red. because they're so covered in berries. I know. I don't remember seeing trees looking like this. I don't remember the last time I saw this because it is quite
Mhm.
rare. And
Yeah.
our apples, we have so many apples, and we've been making crumbles and pies
Oh,
and have a whole list of recipes that I want to make over this coming autumn because it's everything's starting to ripen up now so that we can start eating them and enjoying them.
yeah.
Which is quite an exciting part of those first signs of autumn. Because technically, autumn doesn't begin until I think there's two dates that you can class autumn as starting. There's something goes by the 1st of September and something goes by, I think, the 23rd of September.
Yes.
So those are like the official start dates of autumn. But as we know, like the seasons don't just say, oh, it's that day. Okay, yeah, we'll switch. They switch
Yeah.
gradually and it's a very gradual thing. And we're starting to get those first smells and feelings that you associate with the change of season and it
That's so
feels so nice and cozy, but it's still warm enough to be outside and enjoying everything.
mm,
And those fresh starting to ripen up fruit is one of the best signs because you're not just feeling it and smelling it, you're tasting those changes too.
yeah.
So
And
really
and
enjoying that.
do you have a favorite, like, recipe or favorite fruit that you kind of get at this sort of time of year?
A favorite fruit? I don't think I've got a favorite. I love them all so much. We have some damsons, which is like a small plum, but it's
Okay.
a bit tart than a plum. They're more olive shaped. They're
Okay.
like look like an olive-ish, but they taste like a plum-ish. I mean, they're their own fruit, damson.
Completely different. Are the same size as an olive?
Roughly. Yeah,
Okay.
roughly the same size as an olive, but they're more of a plum type fruit. But
Mm,
I really like those. I also love apples.
mhm.
But I also learned we have loads of different types of apples in the UK, but there's also another type of apple called a crab apple, which is not your typical eating apple. It's very small and it's bumpy and it's misshapen. And I think a lot of people have them as ornamental trees and stuff like that, but
Okay.
they are the UK's native apple tree. The other apples are not native to the UK, which I didn't know. I did know
Mm,
that a lot of apples come from Central Asia, but I didn't know that they didn't also come from here because I think a lot of
yeah.
trees can have a lot of different places where they're native, I think. I'm not
Yeah.
sure to correct me on. But the crab apples are our native apple tree and they are so old. They're like one of our ancient trees that we've had for I don't know how many years, thousands, I suppose. But other apples, they originated in Kazakhstan in Central Asia. And I
Ah,
used to live in Almaty, which is Alma means apple. And it's the city of the apples, which I think is really cool because apples are one of my favorite fruits. And I used to live in the apple city.
that's so
And that's
cool.
where apples originate from. So all of the apples that we know today in different parts of the world, they were spread along the Silk Road, which was obviously one of the major trade routes in the
Yeah.
world. I learned a lot of mythology and symbolism around some of these trees that
Interesting.
are fruiting this time of year. So I'll
Okay.
go into some of those.
Please. I always think that's
Okay,
so
so
fascinating.
let's start with the crab apple. So the crab apple is associated traditionally with love and marriage. And supposedly, if you threw the pips of a crab apple into the fire while saying the name of your love interest, if they exploded, it meant that it was true love. So there's something to try. Roast some
Fascinating.
crabs into the fire and see if they explode.
Love
Maybe don't.
I'm
Maybe
sure
don't try
it's
that.
more just like a little crackle explosion rather than a
I'm
massive.
sure. Yeah, it didn't specify on what I
Yeah.
read, so
Well,
who
we're
knows?
making fires at some point.
Yeah, and I think Shakespeare alluded to crab apples as a symbol of love in some of his plays, so that's quite cool. And then another one that we see a lot is the blackberry, and that
Mhm.
pairs really well with apples. So blackberry and
Mm.
apple crumble, blackberry and apple pie. My dad made me a blackberry and apple cake for my birthday,
Yay,
which
I'm
was lovely.
so glad.
So blackberries, they are super tasty. And when you pick them, you always have to check if they've got grubs in. There's a way of telling really easy. So if you pick the blackberry and it's got like a green center, then it's fine. But if you pick the blackberry and the green center is no longer green, it's red, then it's most likely got something that's living in it. I think that green bit is like a membrane that stays intact. But then
Ah,
obviously if something falls into it to get further into the fruit, then it's not going to be anymore. And symbolically, folklore around that, they should not be picked after Old Michaelmas Day in October. I think it's the 11th of October,
Okay.
because supposedly after that date, the devil has meddled with them, so you shouldn't eat them anymore. So the blackberry is the fruit from the bramble plant, which is very spiky. And traditionally, brambles were planted in graveyards. And this article that I was reading, it was like, why do you think that they were planted there? And it gave me two choices. And the first one was to stop sheep grazing, and the
Okay.
second one was to keep the dead in.
See, I was thinking more like keep people out from the graves because grave robbers and all of that, like that was
Yeah,
when my thought
well,
process
I
went.
suppose, but they're thinking maybe it's to keep the dead in.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with option A to keep the sheep grazing.
It's much more wholesome, isn't it? But if you're
Did
in
the
a
article
spooky.
Yeah, did the article give you the answer?
No, it just said, which one do you think it is? It left it up to me. So that's nice.
Lovely.
And then I'm going to move on to acorns now.
Cool, okay.
I don't have any folklore associated with those yet, but I did find it really fascinating that acorns are edible. Yeah. So I never thought they were. And I know that they can be poisonous to horses and cattle and dogs because we've
Okay.
got some oak trees in the field that we have horses in. And we've always had to be very careful about, like, if there's a big crop of acorns, making sure that there's not many on the floor and stuff when we let the horses in can send them a little bit crazy, apparently. I think it's the tannins. So inside acorns, there's a lot of tannins. And if we want to consume those acorns, we have to leach the tannins out first. And that's
Okay.
like a soaking process. You can do it with hot water or cold water. And I'm not sure what the difference is, but there is a difference. Once you've soaked them to leach out the tannins, you can use them to make flour. You can use them to make coffee. Acorn coffee is a thing, apparently.
Oh,
Decaf. You can also roast them and salt them like peanuts, which I'm excited to try. You
yeah.
can also make, like, you know those sesame seed brittle snacks? I think they're called brittle,
Yes.
aren't they?
Yes,
You can make those with acorns. So basically, anything that you can make with peanuts, you can make with acorns. So those are the 4 recipes I got there. But not only for us are they good, but they're good for so many different types of animals. Like
Mhm.
squirrels, I read something that squirrels will pretend to bury them so that other things will come and dig them up and realize they're not there, and actually they put them somewhere else while they're distracted. So they can be quite
Funny.
sneaky. Also, jays, and jays are one of my favorite birds. They're so beautiful. They're one of the corvid family, which crows and magpies are all part of, and they have not a very pretty song. They're quite a screecher, but they are so beautiful. They've got this flash of blue, and they also love acorns. And apparently, one of the reasons why there's so many oak trees spread out across the UK is because jays will bury them, hoping to come back to them later and then forget where they put them. So then they'll grow into oak trees. So they are a very helpful way of dispersing those seeds. Um,
So
but
cool.
yeah, so they love acorns, also mice and badgers and a whole
Mm.
bunch of other birds and things. They love those acorns. So acorns are like a really good source of nutrients and good source of energy and stuff. They keep well, so they can
Yes.
bury and then they can have them all through the winter, which is really
Yeah.
nice.
That was what I was thinking as well. They've got quite a good shelf life as you
Yeah,
remember when you buried them.
exactly. Keep a map or something.
Yeah.
Um,
Or just put them in a
apparently.
little hole if you've got like a little home.
Oh yeah, I imagine what a squirrel house must look like.
Yeah. Very full of nuts.
Yeah, big store. Apparently, though, the size of the acorn correlates to the size of the sapling. So if you have a big acorn, it'll make a bigger sapling, which the sapling is the younger tree. And because oak trees take centuries to grow to their true size, people haven't really had chance to research if it's also the case with how big the tree grows. But I
Absolutely.
mean,
But
could
it
be.
makes sense to me, right? Because that acorn is the seed, right? And so that's all the energy that it's got stored in there. And so the sapling uses all that energy to grow. And only once it's a bit big and it's got its leaves does it start the photosynthesis process. So that does make sense to me because if you've got more stored energy, you're going to be able to grow bigger.
And faster as
Yeah.
well, I imagine.
Yeah. So that's so interesting though. I'd never really thought about that
Yeah,
correlation. It does
exactly.
make sense.
Exactly. So I suppose if you're foraging for acorns, maybe don't pick the bigger ones, although you
Mm.
probably want. But with foraging, with any kind of foraging that you do, you should always forage responsibly. And that obviously includes making sure that whatever you're picking is edible and you're not misidentifying it, but also making sure that you're leaving plenty
Yeah,
for
for the environment.
for the environment and also anyone else that comes along. Because if everybody takes as much as they can, then all of a sudden we're obviously contributing negatively
Yeah.
to the tree and its future. But if you're foraging responsibly, then it's not really such an issue.
Mm, mm.
Acorns have I'm staying on acorns because I find them so interesting. They are a traditional staple in loads of indigenous cuisines, apparently. So, like Native American people used acorns as like a really important part of their cuisine,
Okay.
far as what I've read. Also across the world, I think, yeah, what I read was like in many countries across the world, there's all sorts of acorn usage in food, which
Wow,
I'd never heard of and never knew.
that's so cool. Wow.
But it makes sense because I suppose they're edible and they're a really good source of energy. And if you're overwintering,
Yeah.
then you really want to make sure you've got those high energy foods. Acorns are a
Mhm.
really good one.
And because they
Any
last
kind,
a
really.
while, yeah, it's a good option.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
Exactly.
cool. Wow, Hattie, what interesting research.
Acorns are really cool. I really loved the research this week.
Oh, that's so cool. And have you got anything else to tell us in terms of like the signs of life your side?
So I suppose I could talk a little bit about hazelnuts because they're another nut that we get a lot of. And there's another animal that loves these, and that's a dormouse. And
Mhm.
dormice, they're quite endangered and they're really rare and hard to see in the UK. They're
Yeah.
also very, very small, but they're one of our native mice and they absolutely love hazelnuts. And I really loved how these dormice, they sleep for 7 months of the year.
Amazing. Sign me up.
Sleepy men. Yeah, me too. They're big sleepers, and then they just nibble on hazelnuts.
Are
Um,
these the mice that sometimes fall asleep in flowers?
yeah, they're really sleepy, and
That's
they're
so
really cute
cute.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when they sleep, they curl up with their tail
Yeah.
like, oh, they're so
Oh,
cute.
adorable. And I've seen,
And
yeah, I've seen photos of them falling asleep in flowers, and I was like, "Oh my gosh."
yeah, they're so lovely and they're so small and they
Yeah,
love living in trees. I think they spend most of their time high up in the tree, like towards the top of the tree
yeah,
in a little hole somewhere. And so you're unlikely to see them because if they're not in the top of the tree and they're not sleeping,
yeah.
well, there's going to be very little else they're doing, really. Yeah. But hazelnuts again are edible. I did know that one because they sell them in the supermarket. Um
They make
and
really good
also
chocolate chips, don't they? Hazelnut.
yeah, yeah, they do go really well with chocolate and raisins. And they are also a favorite of all of the things that like acorns as well. So
Yeah.
your squirrels, your jays and your pigeons and stuff like that. And then they have a reputation of being a magical tree, which I thought you
Oh,
might like.
I do.
So if if ever anybody gets themselves a wand, it should be a hazel wand.
Okay.
Um, and they hazelnuts were used as charms that you would carry around to keep you safe.
Wow.
And also to stop you from getting like, when you're out in the cold and the rain and your joints get all stiff and achy
Mhm.
to kind of ward away from that sort of thing. And it's also been a symbol of fertility in ancient times.
Oh,
And in Ireland, it was known as the tree of knowledge. So it's a
wow.
very important tree, the hazel.
Yes.
Yeah,
Quite
magical, knowledgeable. Yeah, so
interesting.
there you go. The
Amazing.
hazel.
The hazel. What an incredible. Now I'm gonna have to do some research and see if we've got any nearby. I kind of find as we talk more and more about different trees, I'm now starting to spot them all over the place.
Yeah, isn't it amazing? Isn't it
So,
amazing?
yeah, I have no doubt I'll spot some hazel trees around.
We're
But that's
becoming
really fascinating.
it's like a language, isn't it? And at first we didn't speak nature, and now we're
Mhm.
starting to recognize some of those elements of the language, and then one day hopefully we'll be fluent.
Yes. It's a
Okay?
slow process though, I think. Well, at least for me, I don't know about you. I feel like pick up on these things quite easily, but I struggle.
No, I'm
Oh,
not sure I do. There's still so much I see, and I'm like, I don't know what that is.
that's
What
fine. It's
is
a process. It's a process.
the process. It's a fun process too. We love it.
And the
We
more we
love
get
it.
out and about, the more the process becomes easier, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, one more
Yeah.
mythological tree. It's a real
Mhm.
tree, but mythologically, well,
Important.
it's known as the wizard's tree. So the
Oh,
rowan, its leaves look a bit like feathers and it's got really bright red berries. And I think
okay.
in Norse mythology, that has something to do with how they came about. I think it protected Thor or something in Norse mythology. I'm not sure. It's considered good for fighting evil.
Oh,
Um, and people used to plant them around their houses to protect from witches and also to protect from spirits. And they were also planted in churchyards. So now I have this image of churchyards filled with rowan trees and brambles. It's quite a spooky picture.
completely. That is quite a
Yeah,
spooky picture. That is quite a cool picture as well.
yeah. But it's a tree of protection and keeps you safe from evil spirits and things, supposedly. So I guess
Nice.
that's why it was in the churchyards, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. Because the
Yeah.
brambles were protecting, making sure that the dead people didn't come out. And
Yeah.
then your rowans were protecting everybody else.
Exactly. And and also rowan berries are edible, so they're another edible
Ah.
um, fruit, but they are not very tasty. You wouldn't want to eat them raw. I don't think they're very edible raw, but you need to cook them, and you can cook them with something. So I think you can make a tea with them, which will probably need some sweetness in it, like a honey or something. They're very
Mhm.
tart, but you can also make it into a nice jam because
Okay.
obviously it's tart already. So then when you put the sugar in and lots of stuff like
Yes,
that,
it's such a
um
nice, yeah.
yeah, not too sweet, but sweet enough to
Yes.
enjoy it. Um, Very good source of vitamin C as well.
Fantastic.
So,
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
but they also look like a lot of poisonous berries, so please do
Okay.
not farm without without some resistance.
Yeah, without being 100% sure that you're getting
Yeah,
what you think you're
they're kinda
getting.
like a reddy orangey color and lots of
Okay.
them all together,
Oh,
bunch.
interesting.
Mhm.
That's so cool.
Really good. Yeah, the rowan trees around us at the moment are just covered, so they don't look like trees at all. They're just like big orangey red lollipops. Really cool.
That's so exciting. Oh, I love that. Thank you, Hattie, for sharing all that very interesting information.
You're welcome.
And so I know that you have an understory of the week for us.
Yeah,
Tell us what's
I
been going on.
I went for a walk with my dogs last Tuesday morning,
Yeah.
and it was really nice. I was enjoying being back home and thought I'll go out for a nice little walk to reacquaint myself with the woodland. And it was a really nice walk, and then at some point, one of the dogs, she's a bit older than the rest of them, she runs into some bracken. And we've got a lot of bracken and it's very thick. And when they run into the bracken, then you usually see the bracken like waving around and they're rooting around for whatever it is they're looking for.
Yeah.
And she runs into the bracken and I can't see it moving. And I call her back. She's not coming. I'm stood there for about 10 minutes calling her back. She's not coming. So then follow her into this bracken. Cannot find her. I
Oh my
find that there's a trail and it's a mountain bike trail that goes really steep up or really steep down. The steep down goes back to where we were. So I know she didn't go down. I'm like,
yeah.
she can't have surely not. She's 13. So she's quite
Um,
old.
yeah.
Um and those were the only ways she could have gone. I was like, well, she didn't come back to us. So we start going up and we're following these trails. And every so often we come to a T junction and we're like, okay, we'll have to follow both of them. And I'm calling
Mm,
her this whole time. She's not coming. What was supposed to be about a quick half an hour walk around the woods so I could come back and get some work done was very soon a 2 hour walk looking for this
oh,
dog. Yeah.
goodness.
So she would not I think because she's so old, she's starting to go a bit deaf and a little bit blind, and she gets a little bit disoriented and she gets
Okay.
lost. She's now confined to a lead, which she doesn't seem
Mm,
to she's pretty
okay.
happy. But yeah, she gets herself lost. Usually if we keep an eye on her and we follow her, she's just there. but I have
Yeah.
no idea where she went. As I'm walking along, and every possible way that I can think where she might have gone, she's not gone. And so I'm trying all these trails and kind of making my way slowly home because I'm like, maybe she's found her way home somehow.
Yeah.
I get home, she's not found her way home. So my dad's like, I'll go out. And because we had a meeting, he goes out and looks for her. And then once our meeting's finished, I ring him. I'm like, have you found, oh, is she, is she
Oh
there?
my
He's like,
gosh.
no, found her. And then somebody is in the woods and is like, have you lost a dog? And dad's like, yeah, how can you tell? And this man says that he's seen her down on the road, and so I get in the car and I go and see if I can find her, and I walk all the way along the road that this man says he saw her on. She's not there. I get to this cafe at the end, and I'm like, "Maybe she's around here." I get out, I'm shouting her, can't find her. Get back in the car and start driving back along the road, and then there's this man. He must be in, I think he said he turns 80 next year,
Oh wow.
and
Okay.
yeah, because I was like, "Do you wanna lift back?" And he was like, "No, I gotta stay fit." Basically, he's walked along the road with Dottie on the lead. He's like, "She found her way to Oakamore, which is the next village."
Oh
How she
my
got there, I don't
goodness.
know. She just went on a full adventure. So she finds her way to Oakamore, and this man sees her, and he's like, "Well, I'll take her to the cafe because that's where all the walkers tend to park and where they'll be going to. So if anyone's lost her, they're probably going to be around there." So he starts walking her to the cafe, and then obviously I see them on the way, and she's absolutely happy as Larry because he's got loads and loads of treats, and he's feeding her these treats. She doesn't want to come back with me. She wants to
Of
stay with
course
him
not. Yeah, because
with
he's
all
got
those
all the treats.
treats. So, yeah, so that was a really exciting welcome home last Tuesday.
Oh my gosh, Hattie, what a moment. What it like
It was certainly a relief that she was fine and that she
yeah,
was
'cause that can be
found.
quite scary and quite overwhelming, especially because 'cause you've
Yeah,
just
it can.
gotten home and you're like,
Oh, just got home and I've lost the dog.
"Oh my gosh." So she
Yeah,
must have
I
been
know. Yeah, well, but even though she's old, she still gets the zoomies. She's a Springer Spaniel, so
mm,
zoomies last quite a long time. And I swear, for
okay.
this entire walk, she had the zoomies because she was way faster than she normally is. She There
With
was a
all
few
those
times we
treats.
got to go down different tracks than we'd planned because 'cause she'd just gone down. I've gotta follow her. So,
Oh,
yeah, sweet girl. She went on an
well,
adventure.
good to know that she's still got it in her 13 years later. But I'm glad that she's safe and doing okay on the lead.
Yeah, she's pretty happy on the lead. Every so often, she turns around like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, I'm here."
Oh, sweet man. Oh, Hattie, that's stressful, I'm sure. But I'm glad that you guys all found her and that she was safe and that she'd had a great time with lots of treats.
Yeah, she went on an adventure, had a wonderful time, and we were there stressing looking for her.
Oh my
Anyway,
gosh, that's
yeah, sweet
incredible.
girl.
Oh, yeah. Getting out into nature, there's good and bad moments, aren't there? But it's just about finding the positive.
It is, and there are so many positives, even in the stressful stories, and even what you think is maybe a stressful situation, you come out of it and you've got something to laugh about. And also, we've learned for next time,
Yeah.
it's not going to happen again.
I'm just amazed that she made it all the way to another village.
Yeah, I know.
Incredible. Yeah.
Anyway,
Wow.
that's my understory.
Well, Hattie, I think we've come to the end of our episode. Well, I hope that you enjoy lots of harvest picking. We expect to see lots of pictures. Um,
I hope you enjoyed this.
I will for sure.
Soak in
Um,
those smells, temperatures, and
yes.
sounds.
Thank you for joining us on today's adventure, all about spotting the differences in nature. We hope that you enjoyed listening to what we've been up to. We would love to hear what you have been up to in nature. If you would like to contact us, you can send us a message on Instagram. We are understory_learning. Or you can pop us an email at understorylearning@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your understories of the week as well that we can share alongside ours. But until then, we hope you enjoy adventuring and we'll see you next time.
See
Bye.
you next time. Bye.